Radiomafia.
Tanssi-illan aika taas. Mä oon Leena ja biititöissä. Tänään myös Dr. Bob Jones, DJ Goose ja Giles Peterson. Tällä ensimmäisellä tunnilla oikeastaan pelkästään teknon megastaroja. Haastattelussa Laurent Garnier ja jo noin 3 minuutin kuluttua reipas puolituntinen live Orbital. Ja ihan ensimmäiseksi kuitenkin tangon taikaa. Mills ja Tango ja nyt suoraan päätä Orbitalin viime Roskilde Festivalin keikalle, jolla Paul ja Phil Hartnell urakoivat 1,5 tunnin setin. Kahtia siis menee. Ensimmäiset 33 minuuttia kuullaan tänään ja loput tasan 2 viikon kuluttua tähän samaan aikaan. Orbitalin ensimmäinen biisi on Way Out.
Thank you! That's great, thank you!
Orbital livenä Roskilden isossa tanssiteltassa viime heinäkuun 2. päivänä. Tuossa siis keikan alkuosa. Biisilista tanskalaisen tapaa hieman outo, mutta Way Out, Spare Parts Express, Impact ja Nowhere to Run tuossa nyt ainakin tuli. Ja loppukeikka enkoreineen täällä Radiomafian tiistain tanssi-illassa 2 viikon kuluttua kello 21 ja samana iltana kello 23 livenä Cold Cut. Toinen loistava Roskilden keikka sekin. Tämän tunnin loppu vietetään ranskalaisen teknon superstaran Laurent Garnierin seurassa, joka käväisi marraskuussa Suomessakin promoamassa uutta levyä.
Radiomafia.
Garnierin 3. albumi Unreasonable Behavior ilmestyy ensi viikolla, mutta ennen kuin puhutaan siitä, niin otetaan vähän takapakkia. Mies nimittäin sai kotimaassaan vuonna 1998 edellisestä albumistaan 30 arvostetun Victoire de la Musique-palkinnon. Mitä se merkitsi Garnierille?
It wasn't my victory, it was the victory for techno more than anything else, for the whole scene. In a way, because of that helped a lot of people understanding in France, which thought we were all a bunch of stupid ecstasy heads, that they were quite nice, clean people making that music. We were not all stupid. It helped a lot for some of the government to get involved, to have a parade 6 months afterwards. It helped me to open the door for the Olympia, to be able to do a live show there. It was a big turning point, not for me, of course for me because of the Olympia and things like that, but for the whole scene. As when I got my victory, the first thing I said is I looked at the minister was in front, Catherine Trottmann, she's the minister of the cultural, and I said to her, I hope this victory will make you understand that, we can party now and we're going to be freer in what we're trying to do because, it's important and now it exists and it's there. It exists. So, of course, I was very delighted. I was very happy that all the music business has voted for me. It was wonderful to find, to find out I won. But it was more like for everything else. It was more for a success for everything we fight for. Not just me, a lot of other people. So it was nice. It was a nice feeling. It's cool.
Victoire-palkinto tuntui mukavalta ja miksipä ei tuntuiskaan 10 vuoden DJ- ja tuottajauran jälkeen. Mutta Garnier ei suinkaan halua ottaa siitä kaikkea kunniaa itselleen, vaan pitää sitä tunnustuksena koko ranskalaiselle skenelle. Paineita se tietysti kasvatti.
There's always pressure. Whenever you make music, there's always more pressure. Because the more people will discover your music, the more guns you get pointed at you. So yeah, the weight is getting heavier on my shoulder. The weight was very heavy when I was working on this album, and quite frankly, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with it because I feel like, I've done something I'm really happy with, and I can move my shoulders now. It's cool, and I can argue. That's the good thing. With this album, compared to all the other ones, with this album I can argue back. If you don't like this, I can tell you why I did it, and there was a purpose. So I feel stronger. It's nice. It's quite nice to have the pressure because you feel maybe a little bit stronger afterwards. So it's okay. But it was heavy sometimes.
Unreasonable Behaviorilla oli selvä tarkoitus, sanoo Garnier. No, mikähän se sitten mahtoi olla? Mihin hän tällä levyllä tähtäsi?
Find myself more. Find answers to my questions. I think it's really funny, but when I think about my 3 albums, Shot in the Dark was in a period where techno music was not accepted. Everything was bothering me in France, so it's like, fuck you, Shot in the Dark. I'm gonna, take a gun, shoot, and we never know where we're gonna get. So underground and techno and hard and dance floor and no compromise, fuck everybody and all this. Punk days, it was punk days. And then I grew up. I went to 30, where for apparently for a man, it's a time where you ask yourself loads of questions. What happened to me, that's for sure. But apparently it's normal. So I got to a period where I was thinking, where am I going? Is this really have a point? I've been fighting for this for 10 years. Will I spend the next 10 years again in my life, carry on doing what I do? What do you really want to do? Things like that. So the album was a reflection of my questions in a way. Should I do a little bit of reggae? Should I do a little bit of this? Should I be clean? Should I be nasty with crispy bacon? Or should I be much deeper? Or should I carry on really only listening to Detroit and producing Detroit style music? Loads of questions. So 30 was, I still like 30, but I think it was a little bit of, how can you say, not finished. It was there, but it wasn't really finished because I did a lot of things and I put it out straight away. I didn't push it further enough. Then another 3 years came, Victoire La Musique and all these things with it, going live on stage with a band, getting married, not going so much out, spending more time at home, watching the news a little bit more, understanding a little bit more that the whole world was pretty fucked up, and it must be quite utopic to make music in this world, but all these things made me understand what was the purpose of my life, what I was trying to achieve, and I got maybe a little bit stronger, and I worked very differently on this album as like, why should I think of my dance floor when I produce? Why should I think of what my neighbor will feel when I should never think of that when you produce music? I met somebody last year which was very influential on me. He's far from being a musician. He's somebody who sees things. And he said to me, Laurent, you never let yourself go. The only way you did it is, I think, when you play your records. But as a musician, you've never let yourself go. And I've listened to this man. And this time I worked on an album where I thought, I'm going to make music which is not gonna come out. And then when I have a collection of tracks which might not come out, I'll see. And that's what I did. So I did tracks thinking, wow, this is not techno, I don't give a shit because it's not gonna come out, And I think maybe this was the answers of my questions. Sometimes maybe I've asked too much questions, but at least I've found the purpose of where I want to go. I want to be happy. I don't want to make money. I want to live from what I do, but my purpose is I want to be happy.
Laurent Garnier teki albumia yhdessä F-comille myös levyttävän kaimansa Laurent Collan kanssa.
Mr. Elijah? Oh, he's a very good friend first. That's the first relationship. And then second, I think one of my weak points before was trying to do everything myself, not delegating enough. And I found that on going on tour without a tour manager at the beginning. I was managing everything and oh my God, I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. So I called Laurent and I said, Laurent, listen, I'm going to work on a new album. I want to make the music. Once the music is finished, I want you to come and mix the tracks with me. Some stuff were done. I don't want to redo what's done and I think it's good, but he mixed 7 tracks out of 12. And I said to him, if there's a little bit of sound designing, please come and do it. So as on the album, he strictly worked as a sound engineer. He didn't interfere in making the music or anything. Everything was there, and he came and he showed me options, different options for me to maybe put things together, mix them together, and then after that for sound designing. So it was a ball of fresh air, really, because I could work for 6-7 hours on a track, and then he could come and he could see me, because sometimes I'm very productive quickly, and then after that I stop. I can't go any further. And usually he used to come at this time and he used to start mixing the thing, so I was going out of the studio, having a cup of tea, coming back after 20 minutes. Then you have a much fresher air, and then you go, oh no, that doesn't sound good, and then you take things away and it works much faster. So Laurent has been the sound engineer, and he's been great. It's been so good working with him. I'm so happy. And I think he was the missing thing in the process of my work. Sound engineer. Somebody who helps me, who's got a good ear, who can tell me, no, that's Laurent, don't do this. We have a very good relationship, strong relationship, where when he tells me we can't do this, I would push him to do it. Like, we cannot sample with an effect and then put it into a distortion and then re-clean it. We can't do this. And I would say, well, let's do it then. So I would push him as much as he would push me when I would say, no, this is not good enough. No, I don't like this, or we can't do this because this is not what I want to. He would push me to do it. So it was kind of a nice relationship. It was really good, very organic, very, very organic.
Paremmin studio-olosuhteissa kuin kotonaan viihtyvä Laurent Garnier, artisti nimeltään Elijah, äänitti ja sound designasi Garnierin albumia ja osoittautui juuri siksi puuttuvaksi linkiksi, jota Garnier oli levyntekoprosessiin kaivannutkin. Garnier hallitsee kyllä itsekin omat masinansa, mutta ei sentään ole niin friikahtanut, että puhuisi koneelleen, päinvastoin kuin eräät.
There is some people producing music, Laurent is a great example, which have such a bizarre relationship with their machines. I don't talk to my machines. I don't say hello and goodbye to my computer, and I don't call him bitch or bastard when it doesn't work. Laurent does. Laurent does, and oh yeah, he does, and these guys do. These guys do. Because all they talk about all day is, what do you use? And I'm like, when I get to these conversations, I mean, it's very simple. I use this and that, and I don't know any more about it. I don't know how it works. I'm gone. I don't want to know anything about it. Because for me, the essence is the music. But these guys, I tell you, it's crazy about this shit. And I know when I go to a restaurant with Laurent, if ever I have somebody else coming, like Scanex, oh my God, they forget about me. I'm gone. How many RAM do you have, and what's this, and the new plugin, and where do you go, and how much is the effect? And I'm like, fucking hell.
Filters.
Who bloody cares? They're tools, they're nice tools. Yeah. Don't misunderstand me. They're lovely tools. And without them, I couldn't have done an album sounding like that. But please, they're tools. They're tools. They're funny tools.
Unreasonable Behavior on Garnierin albumeista tähän asti ilman muuta paras, eikä ainoastaan soundiensa, vaan myös biisiensä ansiosta. 30:llä Garnier kurotteli ehkä turhankin moneen suuntaan. Uusi levy sen sijaan on tyylikirjoltaan maltillisempi ja kaikin puolin yhtenäisempi kokonaisuus. Omasta mielestäni jopa hieman old school Detroit-henkinen. Kun puheeksi tulee muutos, noin yleisesti ottaen, Garnier toteaa, ettei teknon piirissä ole itse asiassa kovinkaan moni asia muuttunut. Todellisia innovaattoreita on alalla hänen mielestään vain 2.
Aphex Twin. Who really changed things? Aphex Twin. Because he's the essence of drum and bass, ambient, jazz, classical, and what techno is. He's the man. He's the first guy who really used the plug-in, and you know, which is, we're getting quite technical, but like these things you put on your computer to alter the sound. He's the first one who've used it, and I think he is the. For the last 10 years, I think he's been one of the most creative person. But again, you know, change, I don't think techno has changed too much. I don't really see many change in techno music because between jazz and Jimmy Tenor, there's a very thin line. It is late album and proper kind of experimental jazz or free jazz and stuff. A very thin line. Between you know Gino Socio? Disco producer from the 80s. Between him and Jeff Mills, there's not even a line. There's not even a line because the line doesn't exist, because Jeff has sampled Gino Socio inside out. And he always said so, he doesn't hide from it, but there's no line. Between Depeche Mode and some of the tracks coming out now, not much difference. It's the same. So I don't think it's changed at all. I don't think so. And between Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and acid music, where's the difference? There's no difference. I played a track I played in Switzerland last Saturday. I played a track which is 20 years old from a band called Lime, and the track's called On the Grid. Straight kick drum. One sequence for 10 minutes before the vocals even come in, and the vocals are very, very sharp. And I had 1,000 18 years old kids going mental. And I looked at this crowd and I thought, if you ever knew when this record come out, you'll be spitting at my face, because you'll be like, what the hell? And I had one of my best friends with me, and I turned around to him and I said, this track is 20 years old, could you believe it? And he said, oh, fuck off, get out of here, that's not right. And I said, man, I'm telling you, it's 20 years old. And he goes, I can't believe they're gonna go right till the end. I said, wait. And I told the light guy, I said, switch all the lights, just put the strobes, you'll see, they go mental. 20 years old track, there's no difference. So, I think the most, why I say Aphex Twin is because he was the one really innovate, really. And maybe Derek May is for me is the most innovator in Detroit techno, and it hasn't been equaled since. Nobody's equaled him, and quite frankly, you listen to his work today, it sounds as fresh as what it was 10 years ago. So hasn't been that many change.
Garnier leikkasi DJ-keikat minimiin uutta musiikkia työstäessään, mutta myöntää, että vaikea se oli. Klubeissa soittamisesta saa kuitenkin sen oman kikkinsä.
I get tons of people calling me and insulting me because I don't give them dates. That's what I get. I need my DJ fix. Yes, I do. Knowing that I need less of that than what I used to. I've been DJing now for 2.5 months, nearly every single weekend, 3 times a week. I need to cut down now. I need to stop because I've done too much of it. I still enjoy it as much as I do, but the great thing is I've slowed it down, so I kept it on the right pulse. I need that fix because for me it's the crowd, the interactive thing, and I need that. But I need it less than what I used to, because on the other hand I produce and I've got other projects. But it's a very, very important thing to me.
Laurent Garnierin Unreasonable Behavior-levyltä tuossa kakkossingle biisi The Man with the Red Face. Radiomafian tiistain tanssi-iltaa jatkaa kohta Dr. Bob Jones ja The Surgery jälkeen äänessä ovat vielä DJ Goose ja Giles Peterson. On Leena. Hei hei.
Radiomafia.
Radiomafiassa on edessä 5 tunnin tanssilta. Mä oon Leena ja hoitelen niistä tunneista ensimmäisen ja 3. Tänään on taas semmonen lainausmerkeissä ylimääräinen tiistai ja liveä on luvassa. Tällä ensimmäisellä tunnilla Orbitalia ja kello 23 alkaen Cold Cuttia. Molemmat keikat viime kesän Roskilde Festivalilta. Ja normaalipaikoillaan sitten Dr. Bob Jones kello 22 ja Charles Peterson Worldwide keskiyöstä eteenpäin. Ihan koko tuntia ei Orbital täytä, joten lämmitellään ruotsalaisella tech housella. Tämä on Henrik B. Raita Tankeresan EP:ltä Deep Blue Everyday. Henrik B ja Tankeresan, ja nyt palataan sitten sinne Roskilden isoon tanssitelttaan Orbitalin keikalle, jota kuultiin jo ensimmäinen puolituntinen 2 viikkoa sitten omassa tiistai-ohjelmassani. Ja jos se nyt sattui menemään ohi, niin vielähän tätä riittää, ja keikka itse asiassa vaan parani loppua kohti. Live Orbitalia on Radiomafiassa kuultu ennenkin, mutta sikäli kun mistään enää mitään muista, niin tämä on nyt ensimmäinen kerta, kun mukaan saadaan se keikoilla joka kerta yllättävä Belinda Carlisleilla ja Bon Jovilla leikattu Halcyon. Se tulee heti ensimmäiseksi, sen jälkeen I Don't Know You People, The Box, Nothing Left, Style, Satan, Doctor Who ja Chime.
That's great, thank you.
Sounds no good. Sounds no good. Nothing changes. Sounds no good. Sounds no good. Nothing changes. Nothing. good. Sounds no good. Nothing changes. Nothing. God damn you!
Radiomafia. Yes, son?
What does regret mean?
Well, son, a funny thing about regret is that it's better to regret something you have done than to regret something you haven't done. And by the way, if you see your mom this weekend, would you be sure and tell her, Satan, 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 Satan.
This is our last one.
What are all these knobs?
What, these? Instruments. These are for controlling our flight.
Flight?
Well, yes. You see, we travel around in here through time and space. Oh, no. Don't laugh. It's true.